Well, hello everyone and welcome. My name is Hannah Bryn. I'm the Director of Intergenerational Formation for the Virginia United Methodist Annual Conference. And part of my role in that work is ensuring opportunities for outdoor ministries and spiritual formation. And so today I'm really excited to explore a new way of engaging with faith. I'm joined by Valerie Luna Searles, the co-founder of the Wild Church Network and the founder and guide of the Shenandoah Valley Church of the Wild to find out more. So Valerie, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm excited about this partnership and this ministry work that we're doing together. So can you just kind of start by sharing a little bit of background about who you are, what Wild Church is, and how you started your Wild Church?
Yeah. It's good to be with you today, Hannah. Thank you. And I'm also excited about this collaboration. Um, to share a little background, Wild Church or Church of the Wild, those terms, is a way of encountering the sacred outside of the church walls, outside of institutional norms. That includes all of creation as both spiritual practice and as living members of what we consider community. And so it focuses on direct experience with mystery, with God, with the sacred within all beings, human and more than human. And I began my wild church journey. I started Shenandoah Valley Church of the Wild about a decade ago, just after my sister Victoria started what we have found is the first wild church by that name in Ojai, California. And although I am not a pastor by background, I was in a transformative time of reimagining what church is and can be, and see myself as a facilitator of space or guide rather than as a pastor. And so the network has come together as this wild kind of organism with its own volition and growth trajectory. And in that first year, we met others who were either doing the similar things and by different names and started meeting together and talking together, and people keep finding each other ever since. So it has felt like a calling from earth and from spirit for all people who have come together to form the Wild Church Network.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's wonderful to hear the ways in which the Spirit moves when we start to experience a call outside of what we know as kind of the norm of ministry. And speaking about that, a lot of times when people think about church and talk about church, the first image that kind of comes to mind for them is the church building, in which the body of Christ kind of gathers together and does ministry and worship. But we also know that there are people in our communities, people in our congregations that are searching for some kind of connection outside of the building, of the church building. So, how does that idea make room for the people who both have deep ties to the physical space of a church building? And how does it make space for people who are searching for something outside of that building?
Hmm. Yeah, it's a good question that has really led conversation among the network of what is church? What is church? Um, and how does how we meet inform our spirituality and vice versa? And one of the things that I really love most about this movement is the diversity of expression in each wild church. And yet, all of them come together in a shared core vision of inviting people back into kinship, relationship with the earth and all creatures as spiritual practice and really as a worldview shift. Um, there are wild churches aligned with almost every mainline denomination, and many that are aligned with who are not aligned with any institution or even with traditional Christianity. So, among those that are affiliated or connected with a denomination and identified it with buildings, as you said, their expression of wild church could be very different than what you would experience on a Sunday morning in a church building. Others might have it might include more liturgy and forms of traditional worship. And so there's room for multiple expressions of faith, different practices, within this living container of what we call wild church. And but I would also say that it's not about doing church outside. There's an invitation to deepen perception, to encompass a wider lens of belonging and a wider lens of what it means to be church, what it means to be community, and into a wider sense of the sacred through direct encounter. And every wild church will look a little different. Some will there'll be elements of a traditional service, and others would be unrecognizable from a church service. So they vary widely, and there's just room to explore what is calling a particular wild church leader.
It's beautiful. It makes me think of kind of the image of the body of Christ, of like there's just such diversity in the body of Christ, and all are valued and worthy. So it's a beautiful kind of connection to our theology there. So as churches and communities are talking about connecting with people outside of the traditional walls of their church, I think something that we're hearing is that there are people that have a hard time kind of feeling that sacred connection and spiritual connection with spaces that are traditionally more high liturgy and use more traditional language. And then there's also people that enjoy that. So how does Wild Church, and you kind of answered this in the earlier
Yeah.
response, but how does that kind of how does Wild Church balance those two things?
And again, it really depends on each particular wild church, and what they are affiliated with, what they are rooted in, how they name their own faith tradition or not tradition. And so, they can look very, very different. But this is a question that we continue to talk about as wild church leaders all the time, just around language, especially. And I think any kind of paradigm shift in um, in the human world is brings in new language. And sometimes it's hard to find new language for something that we've become so accustomed to. But I would say that is a wild edge of what we are encountering with so many leaders, having conversations around and discernment around language and what liturgy really means and is for. So it's not really about coming up with terms that appeal to most people. It's about those who start a wild church to really spend time even out on the land, out in their particular place that calls them, um, to go deeper into what really resonates for them as far as language, and to allow ourselves to be stretched, maybe outside of old containers that just don't feel right anymore. Um, for me, this has felt like the term God. I think we talked about the term God in church, for a whole year. Um, and what felt right for me was terms like mystery and or source or the divine. And but then we always emphasize that for new leaders to really be clear about what tradition they're rooted in and to share that, but also to be open to other ways of naming what is ultimately unnameable, the numinous, beyond words. And so this is really an approach that is inclusive and decentralized and really focused on experience and encounter rather than on just texts or on doctrine.
It sounds like it's a very it's more of like a lens in which to view your understanding of spirituality and formation and theology. And I'm wondering, with that hope and desire for Wild Church Network, again, like each Wild Church is kind of unique in its own way, but
Mhm.
it sounds like there's a desire for inclusivity and the ability to be accessible for all people. So, does somebody that wants to be a part of a wild church, do they have to have a background or experience in church, or can they just kind of arrive as they are?
Oh, it's totally right as you are. And it's that all are welcome. Anyone who feels a pull, a draw, um, um, a flash of connection with the natural world as sacred is welcome, to come. And I would estimate that at least half of wild churches aren't churches in the same sense that we might associate with them. And sometimes those with less church experience may have less to kind of decondition from than those who are steeped in church. And then those who have a lifetime of experience with church often feel a deep sense of belonging and a deepening of their faith as they step outside of kind of the old container. But it is open to anyone from any tradition.
It's beautiful. So, kind of turning the conversation a little bit more practical, and what does it look like for the Virginia Conference to kind of enter into this collaboration and partnership with Wild Church Network? How can people learn more about Wild Church and get involved?
Yeah, we're very excited about these two key opportunities that are coming up next year, and we hope that anyone with interest will join us for both of these. The first one is just to get a taste, to understand a bit more of what Wild Church is about, and have an opportunity to ask questions. And so we're holding a 1 hour webinar on Tuesday, January 20th at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern, for anyone who wants to join us. And then that is in preparation for a retreat that we are hosting together. It will be an immersive retreat entitled Wild Church Rewilding Faith and Practice on Saturday, April 25th from 10 to 3 at Westview on the James. And anyone listening, anyone interested, will be receiving more information about this opportunity from you all, right, in an email. And if you'd like to learn more about Wild Church in general, you can visit our website as well, wildchurch.com.
So if people are interested in learning more, there's two opportunities. There's a online webinar on January 20th at 7 p.m. The link to register for that webinar will be on the conference webpage and sent out in communications. And that sounds like it's kind of just like an overall taste. There's no level of commitment to that. That's just
Right.
if you want to know more. And then there's also the opportunity to be a part of the more immersive, kind of embodied experience of Wild Church at the 1 day retreat, April 25th.